getting nice and comfortable to do this one. Well guys, welcome back to my channel. If you watched the last video, I gave a very quick, very brief rundown of just my life over the past 6 months and 7 months, I should say. I kind of said that there's a couple of videos that I wanted to make and a couple of things that I wanted to touch base on that I did talk about over on our daily channel. I wanted to go into more detail over here about those particular subjects. I'm very nervous. I don't know why I'm very nervous because I've already talked a little bit about it, but I was nervous then and I'm nervous now. I mentioned that I experienced a anxiety / panic attack back at the beginning of this year. It was around like January 3rd, 5th, something like that. It was very, very early in this year. It was super traumatic. It was scary, terrifying, every like scared type of synonym that you could think of. It was a terrifying moment in my life. I kind of want to talk about what I think led up to that point, kind of like what was going on in my life, what led up to that point, and then what I did following finding out the information that I did, that I experienced an anxiety attack, and what I needed to do for myself, and like what I've learned, and so on and so forth, because it's a process, it takes time, and I am still going through it, but like I just want to share my story, my side of it. You're gonna hear Remy and Charles in the background screaming and laughing, which is amazing, and it makes me feel really good. So let's start. As you can tell today, I'm in a great mood. I'm doing a lot better. I actually have been doing so much better since talking with my primary care following the panic anxiety attack to begin this whole conversation. As you guys know, or maybe you don't know, but I had my very best friend Diesel. I had him for 16 years. It makes me emotional thinking about it now, but I'm trying to not do that right now. Back in September, we were actually at Playlist Live, and we went with our daughter, and I had Diesel stay with my mom, which he typically does when we go away for like work trips. If it's like a travel situation where we're gonna be gone for a couple days, we can't bring him. He does so great with my mom. It's his second home. He just knows it so well. It's never been crossed my mind like, okay, he's gonna have a hard time. At that point, Diesel was having some nights where he had kind of rough sleep because he was old. That first night, apparently he had a really rough night of sleep, and he was like yelping in his sleep. And my mom called me the next morning and let me know that there was like a rough night of sleep for him. I said, do you need me to come home? And she's like, no, he ended up sleeping and he did really well, you know, the rest of the night. So this ended up continuing the next 2 nights, and I got really, really concerned. Again, she told me to not worry. He's eating, he's going to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. Ended up coming home. I was really concerned about him. I called my vet. I had him examined. And they just kind of told me, you know, this is nearing the end for him. And it began this like very difficult era in my life where I was trying to cope with, accept, and deal with the idea that I wouldn't have my dog anymore. So from September to November, there was so many up and down moments, a lot of like unknown situations. There was a lot of really rough nights with Diesel, like where I didn't sleep at all. It was really hard, tough few months. A lot of back and forth on whether or not I was going to be putting him down because I didn't know if it was the right time. I think I did it I scheduled it like 7 times because I just didn't know and I wasn't sure if it was ready. And then there came a really, really bad night, like a really, really bad night where it was just all night and it was like horrendous. And I was so tired and I could just see how tired he was. And I kept thinking to myself, like, now am I just doing this out of selfishness? Like there's something so bad with him that he can't sleep through the night. Like, that's really bad. And he's hurting and he's yelping and he's this isn't my dog and this is not the quality of life that I want for him. And I ended up having to put him down the next day. Even though I know, oh my God, it's so hard to revisit this. Even though I knew it was the right thing to do, it still did not make it any easier, and it destroyed me. Like, letting him down was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my whole life. And it shifted something in me. It like shifted my heart, it shifted my soul, it shifted my mindset. And I know a lot of people might think like, why would you be that upset over a dog? Well, he was not just a dog. After I lost him, I really struggled with days of feeling happiness. And I had never experienced that before. Like, I had mentioned before that I think that those months leading up to Diesel passing away, I may have been a little depressed. Now looking back on it, and I'm like, I don't know if I was necessarily depressed in those moments, but I think I was depressed after I lost him. Again, I've never experienced depression. I've had a friend that I know that has experienced depression, and you know, I know it's traumatic and it's hard to explain and hard to snap out of. And I don't think it was a severe depression, but I think I may have had a little bit. Let me rewind it a little bit. When I was going through all those troubles with Diesel, so this is where a lot of my anxiety attack comes from, I was experiencing chest pain. One day when that chest pain was like, it had been happening for quite a few days, and we were about to leave to go out of town when Diesel was still with us. I decided to take myself to the emergency room because where the pain was, it was like here, and then it was like back here, and then I could feel it down my arm, and it would tingle a little bit. And so I went and I got checked out at the emergency room. I actually drove myself. I ran so many different tests, and they said that your heart's fine. You know, you might just have a little anxiety. You might be a little stressed out because, you know, they were like asking what's going on, and that was what they told me, which I think is a very, very like honest and very like valuable answer for me, because it's true. Like, these are the things that were going on, and those can create anxiety and stress and all the above. So, well, you know, I went there. Diesel was still with us, and he was with us for like another month, I think, or a month and a half. And then I lost Diesel. And then after I lost Diesel, I was just so sad, and I cried like every day, most of the day. I struggled. I mean, I was still a mom, and I still did my job, and I still did all the things that I needed to do, but like nighttime was just awful for me, and I couldn't stop crying. And I couldn't even explain the sadness that I was feeling to those around me. And I would do my best to do that, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Or I shouldn't say that. It's not that I couldn't do it. I just couldn't nobody understood. They couldn't understand why I was so sad. And I can also, now looking back at it, and I can see it. Some people don't look at their animals the way that I do. Some people don't experience sadness the way that I do. Like, everybody's just different, and I can see that now. But I was having such a hard time, and so many people in my life were trying to help and trying to understand and trying to guide me through this. At a certain point, people get worried and they just want you to snap out of it, but they just can't. So it almost makes it worse. Like, it almost makes you feel worse when you try and really explain your sadness, and you feel like you're telling everything that you need to tell, but they don't get it. And it's not their fault. They just don't get it. Months went on, and I was having a hard time still. And then during Christmas time, we ended up adopting 2 puppies, like New Year's, which were amazing. And they brought my husband and my daughter so much joy, and they brought me joy too. But I had this like overwhelming guilt. Like, it was like horrendous. The guilt that I felt like was horrendous getting these puppies. I felt guilt bringing them home. I felt guilt having like these dogs in our house. I felt so guilty that they were like laying on Diesel's stuff and Zoe's stuff and playing with their toys. Like, I don't know why I just felt so much guilt. Like, I was like forgetting about our animals. And that started to build up too. So it's like this, the stress of Diesel being ill and knowing that his death was coming was building up, and then losing Diesel was that built up another layer of stress and anxiety, and then bringing in these new puppies also brought in like this guilt factor in it. It was, like I said, a couple days after New Year's. Charles and I were at the storage unit and I felt a little weird. I had like a wave of nausea. My daughter wanted to actually drive with me and I had like a wave of nausea and I'm like, I don't think she should drive with me. I want her to drive with you. And he said, okay. And I said, I want to follow behind you. So I ended up, he drove, stopped at the stop sign, drove off, and it was like a busy road. And so then I was at the stop sign and I started driving and I was like, man, my heart started racing really fast. So I called Charles and I said, hey, my heart is racing really, really fast. And he said, are you okay? And then all of a sudden it started racing faster. And I'm like, Charles, I think I'm having a heart attack. I said, I'm going to pull over at this place and I'm going to call 911. And he said, oh my God. And so he's like, I'll be there in a second. And so he ended up calling 911 too. But my arms, basically what happened is like my heart was like racing. And then I had this like whoosh feeling go over my chest. It was like, it was like if I were to get hit from the side, like I felt this, like everything like shifted, as strange as that sounds. One of my arms like fell limp. Or both of my arms. I can't actually, to be completely honest, I can't really remember it now. I remember there was like a limpness that happened and it may have been both arms. But I had pulled into the parking lot and my hands were numb and tingly and my heart was still going insanely fast. Like, oh my God, it was like I could like see my chest like going like this. It was the craziest feeling in the world. I was really afraid I was gonna die and I kept telling them, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I'm so afraid I'm gonna die. Am I having a heart attack? Am I gonna die? And they were really kind and very comforting. And then the paramedics came. They were wonderful, like seriously wonderful. Like if I had all of their names, I would just be giving them the biggest shout out in the world, because especially there was these two men. One that came in the car, he was so nice and he just made me feel less crazy, because when they told me that I wasn't having a heart attack, I was like, I feel like I'm a crazy person. I felt like I'm making this up. Like that's what, I guess in my head I was like, they probably think that I'm making this up. Even though the charts that they're recording everything clearly state that I'm not making this up, that my heart rate is like through the roof. He really brought me so much comfort and I'm so thankful for him, because he said that he thought I was having like an anxiety attack or a panic attack, and that a lot more people go through it than I realize. And so they asked me if I wanted to go in the ambulance or if I could go to the ER. And my sister, so amazingly, she's the best. She came and she picked me up so that Char could take Remy, because they came back to where I was. And she took me to the ER. And I got checked out and the doctors there were amazing. And they believed that I had an anxiety or like a panic attack. More an anxiety attack, I should say. And they were kind and comforting, and they kind of reassured me that I had a lot going on in my life and that they're surprised it didn't happen earlier. So they gave me Ativan to kind of help ease my anxiety, and they said I need to see a primary doctor immediately. And coincidentally, that day that I had the anxiety attack, I was trying to get a primary care doctor because I did not have one. I went home with the Ativan, and mind you, I don't take over-the-counter stuff. I'm just not that, I don't know why, I just never really have. Not that that's over-the-counter, but I just don't take over-the-counter drugs. I just never really have. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but I just have never been that person. Like, it's very rare. Like, if I take the Tylenol, it is because I absolutely, positively need it, and there's no way around it. I muscle through so much stuff because I don't know why, I just don't take it. So they put me on Ativan. They actually gave it to me at the ER. I had like not like a reaction, but like a weird experience with it at the ER where they did it intravenously, so it like went in like right away. And I was like, man, I'm really, really dizzy. And she said, yeah, it's probably because you haven't eaten in a while. And at that point, from start to finish, this was like a 4-hour period. So it was like about time for me to have dinner. I was hungry. And I sat there for a while, and then My mom came to the ER as well, so she sat there with my sister and my mom, and they actually had talked to the doctors too, and they were like, you know, when they were asking me like what was going on in my life, I personally had just mentioned that my dog had passed away and I was just having a really hard time with it. And the doctor was like, has there been anything else in your life that has gone on, you know, within the past couple of years, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so my sister and my mom started kind of listing off a lot of things. The things that I've gone on with Charles, like I had dengue fever, which was super scary, that I almost died from. And then, not to be dramatic, but that, and then, you know, Charles going through his stuff and having to go through brain surgery in the middle of chemo, and then, you know, raising a child, and now we got new puppies, and you know, our job isn't the hardest thing in the world, but it's definitely a little tough on your your mental state. Just a lot of things. And I was like, wow, I guess I never really like put all of those things into this same basket of losing Diesel. Like this is all like, these are all things that have occurred within the past couple of years that I still think about all the time. And she's like, well, you know, all of those things, she's like, it's like a cup, it can overflow. Like you keep pouring these things on top. You know, if it's not poured out or drank or whatever, it's gonna overflow. And so that's what could have happened. That, you know, losing Diesel and then adding the guilt on top of it could have just been what tipped you over and what made you explode, you know, what made you pour out. I ended up scheduling an appointment with a primary doctor following this event, and it was really hard to get in early because most primary doctors were not available until October. So mind you, this is January, like the first week of January of 2023, and they weren't going to be available until end of October. I mean, I called, like, at this point, I don't even know how many doctors. Way too many. Yeah, October was like the magic month or something. They're like, October's available, but we have a PA available if you want to see her. And I'm like, perfect, great. If she has all the things that I need and she is qualified to help me, then that's all that matters to me. She was really great, and we talked about everything. She tested me again, checked my heart, checked my blood, checked everything. She's like, everything looks great. I think you have major anxiety. And I said, really? And I was like, I think I've been like anxious and kind of sad over the past couple of months, but like I don't feel like I have had anxiety my whole life. And she's like, well, some people don't. You know, some people don't. Some people it starts at a certain point. Some people it's like sporadic. Like you can have a moment and you have tons of anxiety, and then an anxiety attack will happen. And I didn't know that. I wasn't diagnosed clinically with like anxiety disorder, like on paper, but I don't, you know, I don't know. But I wasn't aware that there was like very different elements to it. She gave me a lot of really helpful advice of like different things that I can do beyond just being prescribed a medication to help me that could help ease my way through this part of my life. But she did want me to try something so that I could sleep at night, because I was still having a really hard time sleeping at night. And she said, I really think you need to try something because it seems that your anxiety tends to be heightened at time, which makes so much sense looking back now. I would never sleep, or I had the hardest time sleeping when Charles used to have seizures. And this is nothing, no complaints. I just want to clarify that right off the bat. I used to have the hardest time sleeping when Charles had seizures because he would have them at nighttime. And it was almost like I always felt very nervous when he had them in the beginning because we didn't have Remy at that point. I would sleep, but I would always wake up around the times that he would have them. And it was like my body was like prone to it. And then when we had Remy, I was always on guard. Like, it was like weird. I was like waking up because I have an infant, but I'm also on guard because of Charles. Like, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I can balance these two things out. Like, taking care of the baby and making sure that my husband is completely safe. You know, he was doing so well at that point too, which is the part that was like rough, is because I think his last seizure was like February 26, 2020. You know, Remy was like a year old, but I was still having like this like anxiousness, you know, almost a year old, I should say. I was still having a lot of like anxiousness with that. And then Diesel waking up in the middle of the night. So I had all this like nighttime kind of trauma, as strange as that may sound. She ended up prescribing me Zoloft, and then she also prescribed me this other very small dosed pill that if my anxiety was too intense, I could take that with the Zoloft and it wouldn't be harmful to me. However, there are side effects to all drugs, and some people have it. With Zoloft, she said that she found with her patients within my age range, like 90% of women did fabulous with it, or 95, some incredibly high number. She said, but if you experience any of these symptoms, you need to call me immediately. So I was like, okay, cool. So it was my first day on Zoloft, and my heart was still racing after I went to the ER. Like, I still had so much like anxiety in my heart. I felt like my heart was racing every single day leading up to my doctor's appointment, which was about 4 weeks after that. I felt like my heart was constantly racing. So I was like, okay, maybe it was just the nerves. So then I went home and I'm like, okay, now I know really what's going on with me. This medication is supposed to help. Okay. The dosage that they told me to take was half of the normal dosage. So I needed to take half a pill for the first 3 days and then a full pill starting the 4th day. So for the first 3 days, I took half a pill, and every day my heart raced, and I felt a little bit more anxious, and my chest felt like it was just constantly racing. Like I was like, okay, man, it's just probably because it's not a high enough dose. And I'm like, okay, before I take this like full pill, I'm just gonna call the doctor and ask if this is good or if this is bad, because she did tell me there are certain things to look out for. And I want to make sure that I'm very forward and honest with my doctor so that I keep myself healthy and safe. So that's one thing I do want to like reiterate. You know your own body. I knew there was something going on with my body. I didn't know what was going on with my body, but I knew that there was something going on with my body, and I knew it wasn't right. So I'm really happy that I called. Oh, it's the beginning of the 4th day. I called my doctor, and someone at the front desk answered, and I said, hi, I just started on Zoloft 3 days ago. I did half a pill each day. Each day, though, I've been having these like extreme heart racing moments. It's pretty much lasts all day. I'm supposed to take a full pill today. I just don't know if I should. I don't know if this is normal. And I was having other weird side effects too. And she said, okay, please don't take that pill. Let me talk to the doctor. I'll have her call you back. Doctor called me back and she said, do not take it. You're having a really negative side effect. Zoloft is not for you. So I was like, great. Okay, I'm glad I figured this out. And you don't know unless you either have prior history with it and you know you're allergic to it, or unfortunately you go through that trial period. We tested it out, it didn't work out. They ended up putting me on another anxiety pill that was like the other one that I told you about, that was like a very small dose pill. And I took that randomly every once in a while, and I did that for about a week, and we went on a trip, and my dumb self forgot it at home. And I was really scared, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't bring that anxiety pill. What would happen if I had an anxiety attack? I'm really nervous. There were other key elements that the doctor had told me to like do. She's like, you can do this thing, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you're feeling. I believe that's how it goes. And so I did that on our trip if I felt like I was getting anxious. And to be completely honest, I think like getting away really helped clear my mind a lot and made me feel a lot more at ease. And I came home, and I did really great on the trip. I came home and I felt very good, and I haven't actually been on anything since, and I've actually been feeling tremendously well. I have prioritized myself a lot differently now, and I have started running and doing that every morning, or walking every single morning. And that has helped me with my journey through living with this anxiety in this like moment in my life. I actually have an appointment where I'm going to be talking to a doctor who specializes in prescribing like CBD. So like what he thinks would work best for me, because I would like to take something a little bit more on the natural side rather than taking some type of prescription. Again, nothing against it, because I know it works well for a lot of people. But in my case, having a really bad experience with Ativan, I think I missed talking about that. I had a really negative experience with Ativan prior to the Zoloft. It was really bad. Ativan did not work for me. The Zoloft did not work for me. And so I was like, you know what? I just kind of feel like maybe I need to take a different route if it's necessary, like if I need it. And I feel pretty confident in that, because I've seen a lot of progress with Charles and his condition based off of his use of CBD. I feel good about what's to come with that. So that's kind of like what I think led to my panic attack or my anxiety attack. And it was terrifying and scary and hard, and it was the first time I talked about it, it was really scary to talk about it because I thought I was gonna die. And I read so many comments from people that said, you feel like you're gonna die. I know what you feel like. I know how you feel. I have been there, and like that happens to me so much. And that for me was like heartbreaking because I feel so sad for people who struggle with this every single day, because that moment in my life, that one eruption, was life-changing for me. It shifted everything in me. I mean, it really did. It shifted everything in me. I remember looking over at my husband, and he came over and grabbed my hand, and I saw Remy, and I was like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want to lose her. I don't want to, please, I don't want to die. I don't want to lose her. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to die. And just knowing that that was the feeling that was like consuming my head in that moment was so scary. It was so scary, and it was just life-changing. As of today, I've been feeling really great. I started prioritizing myself. I took my doctor's advice of doing like meditation, and that 5 rule has really seemed to help a lot, which I kind of thought it was a little hokey, but when you do it over and over, it actually works pretty darn well. It shifts your focus a lot, and you change up your elements, you know, you change up the things that you put in the list. It really helps a lot. Giving time to myself, listening to music, being out in nature really helps me a lot. I feel like I am on a very positive path with this, and a very healing path with this. I hope that with me sharing this, like, we can kind of open up conversation now, and we can kind of talk about this, because after that first time that I shared this over on our daily channel and getting all those positive comments, it really felt different for me, and it felt good hearing stories and reading stories and knowing that what happened to me is like validated, and it's actually real, and like it is a situation. It's a medical, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like, I can't even give you the right words right now, but what I was feeling was very real, and that it shouldn't be ignored, and it also shouldn't be something to be fearful of speaking about. So I know this is an incredibly long video. If you made it to the end, I want to high five you. If you didn't, that's okay too. But thank you so much for watching. I am so appreciative of you guys, and I look forward to like having more of these chats. I have another couple of videos coming out soon. This is gonna be a fresh start and a fresh new year for me. Birthday just happened, so it's a fresh new year. I'm looking forward to developing into my truer self through this experience. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're brand new, don't forget to subscribe. I probably should start saying at the beginning, because people don't always make it to the end. But subscribe and like, leave a comment. I love chatting, and I just want to get to know you guys a little bit better. I hope this video helps some people out. I'll talk to you later. Bye.